there are some goals for demo that there should be a separate CI and CD pipeline, human gatekeeper interaction for each deployment, and the segregation between release and deployment. This is very necessary. And what it means that code should be allowed to get merged into the master branch, but it should not be released automatically. It should only be released by creating some special event that only a manual that can be done only manually. So and then coming back, we will be seeing how we can leverage cross-border testing with LambdaTest, and most importantly, using your LambdaTest local tunnel. So there are cases where you are developing a website locally and you still want to do some cross-border testing without exposing it to the internet. That is where LambdaTest tunnel comes into the picture. So LambdaTest tunnel is an agent developed by a team at LambdaTest, and you can actually install that on a personal system. And once started, it will allow you to it will allow my browser VMs on the cloud to access the internal website that you're hosting. So what this means is that after running this agent, you can run Selenium scripts which can test your local host websites on the remote browsers. So it's kind of a proxy that sits on a machine and allows the remote browsers on remote providers to access your local host and other internet traffic. So the project that we'll be using today for CI/CD demo is Hourglass, and so I made it in 2018, and it's a moonstack app. So it's a simple time management app using the best practices available at that time. And so unfortunately, in the JS world, those best practices change every month. So some of these might have been updated, but like 90% of this is still relevant. And this is a full production scale and production styled development repository, and it is full of all the best practices available. And you can, let's go on the link and see how this repository has been developed, and like how you can contribute to it. So for today's tutorial, I have mirrored this repository from GitHub to GitLab in order to use GitLab CI/CD in an efficient way. So here's our project, and as you can see, there are storybooks. So storybooks is a testing tool in the React world where you can visually test visually test the components in isolation and something like that. So as we discussed that we want to do continuous delivery instead of continuous deployment, because there might be some features that I don't want to readily deploy automatically. So here we'll decide how to do that using a demo. As I mentioned earlier, that there's a special file it's called GitLab CI file. So we'll see that how that file is available here and how it does all stuff for us. And so changing the branch to master. Here's that file. There's a magic file that contains all the logic. So since it's a YAML based file, you can write your own normal YAML constructs here, and it will work out of the box. So I'll go line by line, explain you what we are trying to achieve here. So like the first thing that you can see is the image. So as I mentioned that CI/CD should run in ephemeral environments, and GitLab is using Docker. So this image tells you what is a base image over which you want to run your CI/CD jobs. So since my project is on the moonstack, MERN basically stands for Mongo, Express, React, and Node.js. So like this is a very popular stack amongst JS developers and for backend and both front-end development. So since my project is based on Node.js, I have chosen this version and particularly pinned this version there just to ensure that my builds are always consistent. Now, this is very important. Had I not mentioned this version, it would have picked up the latest image. Now, what happens is like when I developed this project in 2018, this was the stable version. Now, if I would run this now, it would have fetched the latest version, that is Node.js 11 or 12, and it might have break my dependencies. So just to avoid that kind of situation, you should always pin down this particular version. Now coming back to the stages, so stages is just like an index of a book. So stages tells you that what all is being accomplished in this pipeline, and it gives a very broad summary of what all you have designed in this pipeline for. So I think the names are like meaningful themselves. So dependencies will install my Node.js dependencies. And as I already mentioned that I will only trigger this job only when my yarn.log changes. So I'm using yarn here instead of npm because it's superior, it's faster, and it does the same thing like fetching my node modules, but in a faster manner. So similarly, like package log.json, yarn uses its own file, yarn log. So whenever you add or remove any dependencies, this file changes. So like this check is very appropriate here, like only do this job when yarn log changes. And if the yarn log is same, don't do this. So what will happen when you don't execute this install dependencies later stages, that we will fetch the cache dependencies that we have built in the first version. So for the first time when this install dependencies run, it will cache the node modules folder using this key. So since we've already studied that we can use environment variables here, so this will make my condition more robust. So this is CI commit reference slug. So basically you can imagine it as a branch name, but with some text modifications such as lowercasing all the values. And then with hyphen, I have added the project directory. So this is pretty much constant value, but the left one will change depending on the branches. So what this means essentially is that for every branch, I am caching my known modules until my yarn log file changes. So coming back to the next thing, this is a unit test cases that I will run. And as you can see that whenever a new job runs, it will run in a separate container. So in order to avoid fetching the dependencies again, I have used this attribute like cache. So what it'll do is like it will fetch the cache node modules from the previous step here, and I don't have to do it again. Only thing I have to do here is yarn test. So inside script attribute, you can enter your shell script that would run in a normal shell, and you can add multiple values for this. So just imagine that you are executing a bash file on your system, and you can just copy paste all the commands that you write there inside the script tag. So coming on to the next thing is the integration test. Now, only run this case in case of continuous delivery. Now, what it means that I don't want to run this test every time. This test should only run when somebody is trying to merge their repository into the main trunk of my Git system. So for this particular demo, what I've done is that I have limited this job only for the merge request and for the prod branch. So if you do any kind of change in non-prod branches, this change won't run there. This is only meant for integration purposes because it will take a little bit more time. So as we discussed earlier, that we should keep our CI/CD pipelines very fast. We should be very considerate, like what kind of job we are trying to run. So it's taking more time. It should be run in the later stages. So here you will see a new keyword called services. Now what happens is that in my integration test, I'm using MongoDB instance. Now, GitLab allows you to run any third-party services in conjunction to your already running job. So let's say my integration tests depend on Mongo. I don't need to bring my own Mongo cluster. I can just ask GitLab CI/CD to run a Mongo Docker in addition to my the container in which my jobs are running, and create an internal networking as well. So what we'll do is that it will spawn a separate container and link it to my running container so that I can use Mongo from my local scripts here. So here what we've done in doing that, we are just echoing the Mongo URI test. Now this is a very important trick that you can use to debug your CI/CD pipelines. So since we have ensured that our pipelines are using environment variables, there might be cases when these variables are like out of your knowledge, like which ones did actually the CI/CD pipeline used. So you can always do some echoes and it will display in the log like which Mongo URI tests were running over there. Now coming to the next job, it's linting. So linting is more like checking if the code meets my guidelines that we have already planned. So this is a very fast job. It uses ESLint internally, and we can do it every time, and just ensuring that we are fetching node modules because ESLint is only the node modules. Now, here comes the end-to-end testing. Now, this kind of testing does take a lot of time, and it should only be done when we are final to, we have already done everything, and we just need to double check that we are doing it correctly. And particularly for the website, this means that now the website was working on your system on a particular browser, but now we need to check if this website works on all the different browsers. And here's where your cross-border testing comes. So in end-to-end testing, what we'll be doing is that we'll be starting a backend server, we'll be starting a front-end server, and then we'll be running a Selenium script on the Lambda test using Lambda test tunnel. Now we're using LambdaTest tunnel because we haven't still deployed a website, and this website will be residing in the container itself, and it will be accessible by localhost. Now, in order to come this limitation, we'll use LambdaTest tunnel, which will proxy the traffic from my container to LambdaTest browsers, and it will be able to test that. So then other thing is the build client. A build client is what it's finally creating a production build for my front-end assets. And here you can see a special command that I've added. It's called artifacts. So artifacts, GitLab artifacts allow you to cache some resources, and it's available for download from the UI. So let's say you did your final production build, and now you want to access it later after the CI/CD has ended. So you can create an artifact for that. By doing this, you'll be able to access those static files later on, like in any point in time after you have run your CI/CD test. So these are like very simple jobs. So basically, these are only done as a final touch when you're ready to deploy. So they're building documentation, building storybooks, and everything else. And this is where this is actually deployment step. And these are broken down into separate steps because we don't want our code to be deployed automatically. So for this, what we've done is we have added when and manual tag here. This tag tells GitLab that this process should only be run when triggered manually via human intervention. And the next command follows that you don't want this command to fail. I mean, if this command fails, the whole pipeline should error out. So this is how we achieve that kind of system where my production builds are done and they're ready to be deployed, but only be deployed when I want them at my will. So we'll see like how this actually takes place here. And there's one more thing that you can add this, since these jobs can run in parallel, you can ensure that certain job should only be run when a previous job has completed. So as you can see here, there are dependencies for E2E tests. Now this deploy command should only be available for manual intervention only when the E2E test has been completed. So there's no point in like deploying my backend before I have completed my test. So this thing ensures that this step will only be unlocked when my previous test cases have been passed. And similarly, there's another command for deploy front end. And similarly, I've added when manual. This should be triggered manually whenever you want. So what we'll be doing here is that this is an application. This is a target application that we'll be using. So it's a very simple time-based application. Maybe we can create an account. So since this is deployed in very small servers due to freebie registry, these will take time, and also the servers are located in Europe and US, so there's some latency involved. But this is the project that we are going to test here. So okay, this is taking a long time. Maybe we can switch back to our CI/CD pipelines here. So let's do one thing. We'll go ahead and do some change, a very small change in the README file to trigger our CI/CD pipeline. So in order to do that, we can do changes right away from the web IDE. And let's take up the README file. So let's commit this change, and this we need to ensure like which branch we are doing this change in. So let's change branches. Let's do this change in the master. Now, since we have added CI/CD pipelines, GitLab detected it automatically. And what we'll do here is that we'll straight away jump to the CI/CD section here and see like what happened. So as you can see, when as soon as I push something into the master, my job ran. So there are only two things that are running here. So one is the build client and one is the linting and unit test cases. That's it. So since this is a normal CI step, I just integrated a code into my master branch. So I just need to ensure that the code is meeting my specifications. Now, like when you are done with doing this and we are raising a pull request to the prod branch. So for this purpose of the demo, we are treating the prod as a main branch of the Git repository. So master is not the one. So let's say we want to merge from master to prod. And right, let's not delete this and submit the merge request. So now, since GitLab knows that there's a pipeline attached, and so what it's doing is that it's deferring the merge until the pipeline succeeds. Now, this is a very interesting feature that GitLab provide you. So it won't merge before your test scripts are done. But you don't have to sit on the screen to wait for the scripts to run. You can just click this option. So whenever the pipelines will succeed, this branch will be automatically merged. So I mean, it's a very easy to just like send a pull request and start doing your other work. You don't have to wait for that pipeline to complete. Now, what happened in response to creation of this merge request? So now what's doing is it's building documentation, it's building storybook, and then it will run my integration test only when this process is complete. This might take 2 or 3 minutes because as I already mentioned that GitLab run these tests on containers and these are container very low specifications. So these do take time, but let's dive into what's happening in this job. So this is very interesting. You'll get all the logs with in timely manner to like what's ever happening in the job. So as you can see that first of all, it tried to fetch my repository there. Then it tried to check if the cache exists. Like this cache is of the node modules that we discussed. Like it would the node modules would have been fetched in some previous jobs, and now we can use that here. Since it successfully extracted the code and I started the building documentation and it's now complete. So this job is now complete. As you can see, this passed here. Now going back, let's see, I mean, at what stage my pipeline is in. So here, the build client is passed and it's waiting on lint and unit test cases. So all the jobs in the same stage will run in parallel unless you specify otherwise that you want a particular job to depend on some previous job. So since linting and unit test cases don't have anything in common, I tried I've decided to run them in parallel. So running them in parallel will decrease my CI time. And similarly here, as you can see, in response to a merge request, another job is running, and that is the integration test. So integration test means that now I want to check if my backend and front end are compatible together and the APIs are working here. So these tests will occur in this stage. And since we are dependent on the MongoDB instance, this CI/CD pipeline has fetched a MongoDB image from the Docker Hub. It has set it up like automatically. And then when everything is done, it will start my test cases. So in the meanwhile, when this is being done, let's see how we can like prepare our code base for the release. So for the release in this demo, what I've done is that we need to create a tag whenever we want to freeze some kind of release. Now Git tags are very useful if you want to like bookmark some important changes there. So let's do one thing. I create a new release and I will create from the master branch. You can add any message over there just to keep you reminded like what this main release contains, or maybe you can add some build release checkpoints as well. So as soon as I create tag, this will start my release process. Now we can straightforward go to CICD. And now we can see this top row, this new pipeline has been created in response to my tag creation event. What we'll do is, first of all, install dependencies because we are now creating the final build. We don't want any confusion in that. So we are doing every steps possible to ensure that this is the final release and it doesn't contain any kind of bugs or warnings. Secondly, after the build will be created, it will try to build the client. In third, it will run three kind of tests now. It will run unit test cases, linting, and then end-to-end tests. End-to-end tests is where we'll use cross-version testing in order to test on LambdaTest. And then finally, when the test cases have passed, it will move on to the deploy backend stage. And most importantly, these stages are manually triggered. These steps won't happen automatically. So I'll just show you. You just need to wait for a while when this pipeline completes. So you can see in the previous cases that this is how you can actually achieve that kind of manual intervention. I ran this job like an hour ago, just for the showcase purposes. So like when all these three have done, the play button will be unlocked. Now this is where you can manually intervene and run this job again. So if I do this, it will start deploying my backend again from that particular release itself.
Yes, exactly. So we have passed our all test cases, unit test cases, we have done linting, and we have done end-to-end test cases. So let's see, what logs did it generate? So first of all, we tried to run our backend server using PM2 here. Then we tried to run a file server, static file server. And then finally, inside my just cases, I tried to spawn up a LambdaTest tunnel using a plugin. So as you can see, that tunnel is successfully initiated here. And from that point, just started its normal testing. And this test should appear here also. Let's refresh the page. Yep, I think this time matches. And this is the test that we're talking about. Yes, so test is working and we can see the network logs as well, but I don't think we have enabled it. So in order to capture network logs, you need to pass the capability over there. So I think I missed that part, but the commands are recorded here for your debugging purposes. And then as Buddha mentioned, you can always view Selenium logs on LambdaTest and the console logs if they are available. Yes, we have some console logs as well. So coming back to our CI/CD pipeline, now we have done all the kind of testing and we are sure that this release is ready to be deployed. And let's say the day comes when I want to release this, it's as simple as clicking this play button and that's it. So now these jobs will run only when you want. So what this did to you is that it prepared the release process for you, and it took away all the hassle from doing those last minute checks, last minute testing, because you're now sure you did all the kind of testing beforehand, and now you can safely safely deploy and just relax. So eventually what this do is that it will deploy my backend on Heroku and my front end on Surge. So yes, boom. So like our front end is now deployed in Surge and my backend is deployed in the Heroku, and this is done automatically via my CI/CD pipeline. So like this is how you can actually make a CI/CD for your own company or team there.
As always, please post any questions in the comments below or at community.lambdatest.com. See you in the next video.